Ruby, the great stink. Late in the afternoon, when the gang went home to tea, Ruby and Tom set to work. They collected all the old smelly seaweed on the beach and carried it up the path to the big cave. This will really stink in the morning, Ruby said, and she laughed all the way home. The next day, she made Tom get up very early. I want to be down on the beach when they smell that seaweed, she said. I want to hear what they say. They'd only just reached the bottom of the cave when the gang came swinging down the ropes into the big cave. They smelled the seaweed straight away. Tom and Ruby could hear them shouting to each other, "Yuck! It's disgusting! It's unbearable!" Ruby gleamed. "It's working," she whispered. It looked as if she was right, peeping out of the little cave. Tom saw the gang climbing back up the ropes as fast as they could scramble. But they wasn't gone for long. A few minutes later, they were back with the hose. They sprayed water into the top of the cave and washed out all the seaweed. The water splashed over the cliff and flooded into the little cave, and it brought the whole seaweed with it. Tom and Ruby climbed up the cave walls to try to escape, but the ledges where they could stand wasn't high enough. By the time the water stopped, they were both soaking wet and very smelly. "It's not fair," Ruby said angrily. "There must be a way to get rid of the gang." Tom was so cold he was shivering. "Not now," he said. "But please, let's get out of here." They scrambled over the smelly seaweed and ran home. "What have you been doing?" their mother said. "It's much too cold to go in the sea today. Go and have a warm shower straight away." "We haven't." Tom wanted to say they haven't been in the sea, but Ruby tipped his ankle to stop him. "Don't be silly," she whispered. As they went upstairs. "If you tell her about the seaweed, she'll be cross, and she might make us stay indoors." Staying indoors sounds wonderful to Tom. He felt as though he never ever wanted to see a cave again. But he would have guessed Ruby wouldn't give up so easily. Chapter 4. Out in the dark. In the middle of the night, Tom woke up suddenly. Someone was shaking his arm. It was Ruby, she whispered in his ear. "Don't make a noise." Tom blinked and rubbed his eyes. "What's the matter?" he whispered back. Ruby gleamed. I've got a brilliant idea. Come on. But it's the middle of the night, said Tom. Of course it is, said Ruby impatiently. That's the point. Now hurry up and get dressed. Minutes later, they creeped downstairs, and Ruby unbolted the front door. She had a bag on her back and a torch in her hand. Tom wanted to ask where they were going, but every time he tried, she put a hand over his mouth. Wait till we're on the beach, she whispered. It was dark, frosty night. It was a dark, frosty night, and there was a cold wind blowing. Ruby stood on the beach and shone the torch up at the big cave. The pile of rocks outside made frightening shadows on the cliff. What are you going to do? Tom asked nervously. I'm going to skate again, Ruby said. Tom followed. How? They are not scared of anything. They'll be scared of this, Ruby said. I'm going to make them think there's an even rougher gang around. Come on, she headed for the cliff path. Tom didn't want to go, but it was very dark and Ruby had the torch. He followed her past the notice and over the stones they'd used to block the path to the path. He had to go slowly because it was icy and the stones were slippery. Let me see how many pieces. I think there is chapter